Hi, welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, CEO of Leadership City, serial entrepreneur, international speaker, and longtime coach in professional baseball coaching in 3 World Series. And I'm with my good friend, Scott Knudsen. Hey, Scott, what's up, buddy?
Hey, doing great, Trent. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, man, I am super excited about this, Scott. We are relatively new friends, and man, you've just got a great background and great story. And you know my background in sports. And man, you got a lot of background in sports, rodeo, Texas cowboy. Man, I love it. And what a
Me
story
too.
to tell. So I'm excited about getting to going today.
Thank you. I am too, man. I'm ready to share some stories.
Awesome. So for your listeners out there, super excited to bring Scott on. Before that, this show, have you ever faced stiff adversity, felt like the losses are mounting, and you need to find a better way? Well, I think you came to the right place. Whether you are already an entrepreneur, athlete, business leader, or just looking to start your journey to being elite, this is the spot. I bring one percenters on here to talk about their life, their trials, their times, what they learn, and what you can learn from them. And Scott will not disappoint. It is awesome. So let's get in. Scott, where can they find you on the world of the internet? Where does everybody find you?
Cowboy entrepreneur on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all the social media sites. On LinkedIn, it's Scott Knudsen. Every other platform, it's Cowboy Entrepreneur.
Scott Knudsen. Perfect. And Scott grew up in Georgetown, just outside of Austin, 5th-generation cowboy. You're an entrepreneur, done all sorts of different things. You got this great background of
Thank
tennis with Billie Jean King and Martina Navratilova. I love that. And you've got of course, your show, Cowboy Entrepreneur, which is massive. You got the coffee line, which is that Java Cowboy?
It's the Cowboy Entrepreneur Coffee, and you find it at javacowboy.com.
JavaCowboy.com. Okay, Cowboy Entrepreneur Coffee. There we go.
Yeah.
And we got all sorts of things to talk about your background, including a guy who's broken 60 bones. You've been a board member of a theater company, of course, because acting is exactly what you wanted to get involved in, right? And what's one thing most people don't know about you, Scott?
One thing. So 16 years ago at the ranch, I was holding my 1-year-old daughter. I met my wife and my daughter down at the barn, and I was hit by lightning. So that's probably one thing most people don't know yet. So
hit by lightning. I mean,
hit by lightning.
First of all, everyone always talks about, right? Hey, there's better chances to win the lottery, right, than getting hit by lightning, right? I mean,
I wish I did that instead.
Yeah, no doubt. And what's amazing is that the lightning struck you to the top of your head, went out your hand.
Right.
The daughter, the 1-year-old baby, goes on unscathed.
Yeah, that's just a miracle. Absolutely.
Miracle, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, miracle. And of course, you're the ground. And probably what a lot of people in the world know that, hey, a lot of people in the cowboy world who are working on ranches know some serious dangers about lightning on the plains. Whereas, us city folk, right? We don't even think twice, like, oh, hey, man, there's lightning. Like, don't swing the golf club. Right?
Yeah. That's a great point, Trent. And we were looking, it wasn't bad weather or anything. But the lightning strike traveled 15 miles. There's a name for it. And, or we wouldn't have had our daughter out in it. And it just found us.
Man, I mean, it's truly a one in a life experience, right?
Yeah.
And of course, this is just part of your story of a lot of once in a lifetime experiences, mostly really good, but a couple challenges along the way, as most people know. When you find successful people, we go through some trials. Tell me a little bit about, as a kid, like, did you know, hey, listen, man, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be a cowboy. This is what I'm going to do. It's all going to be about the cowboy life. I mean, 5th generation, that's got to be pretty well ingrained.
It's 100%, Trent. It's ingrained. And my dad, he was a cowboy for sure. And he was also into business. My mom was out in the community doing a lot and raising kids. And, I fell underneath that tree right there. I wanted to be in the community, help where I can, and be a cowboy. And I love business.
I think it's also one of the things that business leaders and obviously epicenters of business are often the city, right? Dallas, you got the big city. And For me, Chicago and LA and, all these things that we think about. We don't
Right.
think cowboy and farmers are entrepreneurs, but that's exactly what they are to me.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true, and just in the horse industry alone, I think the number is 50 billion direct and 132 billion indirect in the impact in the economy. And there's
Wow.
1.2 million jobs or so. I took that from the American Horse Council. They were on our show. 1.2 million jobs in the industry. So it's a big industry. It's just scattered out.
Yeah, and the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show is booming, right? You started with a podcast,
We're,
went to the radio show, and
yeah,
looks like going to be syndicated soon. Is that right?
absolutely. Yeah, we're blessed for sure. Yeah, picking up more
That's awesome. So
more
where can
platforms.
people tune in to the Cowboy Entrepreneur on radio stations, on the podcast? Tell us where we can find that.
Oh yeah, thank you, Trent. So on the podcast, you can go on YouTube on Cowboy Entrepreneur, but it's on Spotify, Apple, Google, iTunes. I think there's 15 or 16 different platforms that carry us now. And on the radio, it's KCAA out in California, and that's an NBC affiliate.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
it's
amazing.
cool.
I was just down in Fort Worth, and I went to
Awesome.
the stockyards.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and then I was at the stockyards and I saw the radio station right there in downtown Fort Worth that is, producing directly for folks in the industry, right? I mean, it is just an industry targeted to the rodeo, cowboy, obviously cattle, anyone in the cattle business. I mean, tons of outreach just out of this. So it's very cool being in downtown Fort Worth and being in the stockyard area, which I find to just be a unique place to visit.
It really is. And they're so welcoming down there,
Yeah.
and some of the streets are brick still, and they'll do a cattle drive down the street, and a lot of, big businesses down there, but it doesn't feel like it. It's welcoming, and it's a great place for sure.
Well, I think that's what's probably the most thing that's impressed me about, when you talk about entrepreneurs in the cowboy space, right? Cattle, farming, all these, horses. People that work hard, play hard, very humble, very humble. Like, I'm reminded of the movie. I want to think it's called The Gift. I can't recall, but it's really well done. Where this man has to. It's a young trust fund kid. Has to go down and get his inheritance, right? And the grandfather really sees something in this kid as a leader, and he sends him to his good friend, right?
I remember that, yes.
And who owns the cattle, and he's like, "Hey, when are we going to get to your property?" He's like, "Hey, we've been driving on it the last 20 miles," right?
Love it. I love it.
Yeah, and he's got a fixed post, right? Like, hey,
absolutely.
you're just gonna mend this fence, and and you look to the horizon line and going, I don't know when this job's gonna be done, right?
Yeah, I love it, man.
It's a lesson in hard work, and I think there's a lot of lesson of humility in that about what it takes to actually get her all done,
Absolutely. But after you finish that fence, you turn around, you look, and it's a straight fence and everything's perfect. You did your job.
Yeah. I think that's, I think even now, us city slickers, right? I find one of the most gratifying events is going out and mowing my lawn, because you and I, as entrepreneurs, know how many times we get involved with projects, and it may be 9 months, it may be 9 years until you see the finish, right? And
Absolutely.
man, you go to a lawn, you go, "Hey, I just did that,"
Yeah.
and it looks good for now. I mean, I don't know how it's gonna look next Friday, but it looks good now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It just motivates you.
Yeah. So let's talk about the show Winners Find a Way. It's taken from a quote from the Four Disciplines of Execution by Chris McChesney, Sean Covey, from Covey fame. That's the son, played quarterback at Utah or at BYU. And the quote is, "Winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win."
Love it.
And man, a guy who's been out farming, been out on the cowboy, been on the circuit, been in this horse trade for years. You have faced all sorts of adversity, 60 plus broken bones, 9 concussions. Talk to me, broken neck. right?
Yeah.
Three really close brushes with life, like life or death, right?
Absolutely.
You
Yes.
know, talk to us about one of those times you were down, hey, didn't look good. What do we do? What do you do? What do you recommend to us when things aren't exactly in the right direction and you need to turn around, get back on that line of the direction you want to go?
Well, you just can't dwell on it. So when something happens, you just have to not even focus on it. You can focus on getting better, getting well, fixing a problem, but you have to focus on your end goal. And I was riding a Colt, and you mentioned the broken neck, so I'll go there. I was riding a Colt, and I knew he was going to be tough, and we were working together, and he just got to the point where he just didn't want to do anything. He was mad. I knew this horse very well, and he stopped and he just jumped and flipped over backwards. So the apex was my neck, and it was then me, then the saddle, then this 1,200-pound horse, and it broke it. And I remember laying there in the sand, and I was feeling. Of course, I went numb, and it was a bad deal. I remember the cold sand, and it's so vivid even today. I wasn't mad at the horse. I was a little bit disappointed in maybe putting myself in that position, but my end goal, I was already thinking, how am I going to walk again? How are we going to get well? What's the next thing we're going to do? And man, how can I fix that horse? What can I do to get him better? And, that just started the progress. And then we were in the hospital, and it's funny how things lead. I was in the hospital. My daughter was there. My wife was there. And it was just a great place. They took care of us so well. And the chef at the hospital says, Haley, what would you like from the kitchen? She said, I love a milkshake. And they were like, oh man, we don't have any ice cream at this hospital. So he didn't. But the next day they brought up a milkshake for her. And that out of that whole thing, I remember that hospital paid attention to that one little detail. And I learned that. And we got well, because I didn't focus on the injury. And we were able to walk in, got well, and worked on that horse and became friends.
Yeah, I think there is that tendency, like, we can lean into that woe is me, right?
Absolutely.
Like, hey, this happened. I don't know why. I could have done, and I think a lot of us when it happens is woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? I could have done this. I should have done that. I would have, if I had to do it again, I would have done it like this if I was thinking straight, and part of that is blame, and we're blaming ourselves, right? But I think part of it climbs into that by doing it. I think we climb into that victim mode a little bit. Is that fair?
Yeah. It's very easy to do. You just can't let yourself do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably easier said than done for, a lot of folks who are facing a tough situation.
Right.
And I love this, I mean, and you've seen a lot of these things like, the lightning strike, which is a traumatic brain injury, TBI. And we've had another guy on our show before who had a TBI, was hit by a car, hit and run. And just, talking through that relearning of basics, right? Like, talk a little bit about how do you feel as a grown man when you sit down with your 2-year-old and she can color better in the lines than you can?
She did. Oh my goodness, she did, and she can still read and write better than I can. But I didn't feel bad about myself. I didn't feel bad in the position. I'm not going to say I cherished being on the ground trying to color with my daughter, but I don't know if I didn't have the lightning, if I would have. I always spent time with her. So I look at that positive. I looked at the positives of when I walk outside in the morning, I'll look around and enjoy that day. Yeah. It taught me lessons, but I let it teach me the lesson. Just like business. I've had businesses fail. I have business succeed. And I've learned lessons, and I just let them teach me. And it's almost the rubber ball thing. The higher it bounce, the farther, the harder you push it down. And that's just kind of the way I look at it. The only way to get up here is to be, learn from it, learn from the fall.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I take from that is that when you've had experiences that are tough, right?
Absolutely.
Tough, life-threatening, there has to be, and maybe I haven't had one that close, but and don't wish it really, not asking for it, by the way, Lord, just real quick. We'll clarify that real quick.
No, I did it for both of us.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you taking one for the team.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But I think there is that one of the gifts I've heard on a number of times, I've talked to people about that, is the gifts of a heightened awareness of life, present, the present. Like what's in this day right now. Wake up and be thankful for that, right? Which we're called by the Lord to do every day, right?
Every day.
Hey,
Yeah, every day.
I'm gonna be thankful and be glad in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great, Trent. Yeah, absolutely. We're called to do it, but it just makes you appreciate it even more. It just heightened my senses where it might have dulled my senses in some areas. It definitely heightened them in others.
Yeah.
And that's one spot for sure it did. And
Mm.
it, I look at it also that if somebody's struggling or they do have a brain injury or hurt or whatever the case, I can talk to them. They can look at me and say, "Man, okay, it's something we can get over. If that guy can do it, I know I can do it." And when we're out talking, and speaking at different places, we talk about some of this. And I think once they see the bumps and the bruises and the failed whatever, it encourages them.
Yeah.
And because all they hear is the successful part.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I take away from is we heal, right?
Absolutely.
And our body's an amazing thing,
Yeah.
and I think that that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And it may not be quickly, but if I looked at you, out of all these things, right? You speak
Mhm.
pretty well.
Thank
You
you.
don't sound like there's any cognitive inability here.
No,
You're a good looking dude and you've had your whole
thank you.
face smashed,
Yeah.
and had
Thank you.
2 plates in your face.
Yeah.
You're a handsome man and
Thank
got a
you.
beautiful family
Yeah.
and you're not running a ranch from a wheelchair.
No, I'm really blessed. Honestly, I feel better now than I ever have, and mentally and physically and spiritually, all three. And I just live really disciplined. I watch what I eat. I wake up early. I work out. I have my schedule and I stick to it. And I think with the injuries and other things, it's taught me don't waste your day, don't waste a minute, and work your plan and have a plan. And
Yeah.
that's really helped me to stay in shape and mentally and physically be able to do what I still can do.
Well, let's talk about this this close knit with the Reaper, right? Is
Yeah.
you're doing the right things. You're a guy who's like, hey, I'm gonna stay healthy, I'm gonna drink
Mhm.
water. I got my bottle every day. I load up my water and I
Mhm.
go to work and man, I'm gonna drink my gallon of water today. Stay healthy, stay hydrated out there, not put myself in a situation I could get, bent out of shape here, and it's good for me. But then
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
a sudden you wake up or just it starts seeing that you're losing weight. All these things are going on. Tell us what happened.
Man, so we're working out, we're still living our days, and we're carrying that water bottle around, and I just started noticing I was losing weight, I was losing a little energy, and I was trying to figure it out. There had to be a reason. It's just like business. There's a reason why you're losing. Why are we losing?
That's
And I
right.
didn't change my diet. I was still getting the same amount of sleep, and I didn't know. And my mind never goes to the negative, so I was just thinking it was something. We're gonna work through it, and I remember going down to one knee in front of our bed, and I was telling my wife, or I asked my wife, I said, I think we need to go to the hospital. And we went, and once again, I don't look at the wall, I look at what's around it. And while we're there driving, we're talking to the nurses like, hey, when can we get out? I got stuff to do today, or what do you think's happening? And they were like, we don't know if you're going to leave, or if you can leave or when you can leave. And it was a little sobering, not scary. Um, and they just started taking care of me, and I could see the tension in the room. My wife is used to me getting out of those hospitals, and she was surprised when.
Like she's thinking nothing's gonna kill this guy, by the way.
Oh my
Like,
goodness, bless her heart. She knows the way to every hospital in the county. But
you guys must be first name basis with all the physicians in the
oh
county. Come on.
yeah, I think we built the wing. But we just didn't think that way, and it was weeks like it was days, almost a week later, and we got to get home, and the doctors were incredible, and we saw some things on that one, and it humbled me in other ways. Where the other two, they humbled the other two close calls, if not all the way calls. This one really did. And I'll look at things even more different, like I know my family's taken care of. I know this is good. Now just go live
Yeah.
your life the way we're supposed to. So
Yeah. And the whole source of
mhm.
this issue is a parasite in a bottle, just not a
It
clean
was a
bottle.
parasite in a bottle, Trent. That
Yeah,
was it.
yeah,
And I was washing it. I'm not a dirty kind of guy. I was
right.
washing it, cleaning it, but they said you had to soak it in bleach. It was a special kind
Yeah.
of plastic. I didn't know, but it was E. coli and OK-147 and C. diff, all three at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
man.
terrible, but so I don't carry plastic
Amazing. And
bottles.
you're thinking like the most harmless thing, right? Hey, I'm drinking water. I'm doing what's good for me. I'm not
Yeah.
out here, drinking beer or drinking soda all day. Like I'm
Mm-mm.
doing what I think is best for me, right? And what I was told to do. And I'm disciplined. I'm following my routine, right? And
Mhm.
it's crazy, the little things. And we often talk about that, like for people that go into the jungles and get like dysentery and things like that, like it is
Right.
the smallest little parasite that'll take down the body, right? It's this little
Right.
thing that's nothing that all of a sudden gets in and the infection spreads. Alex Smith talks about that, the football player
Mhm.
who got his leg broke and then it got that little bit of infection, right? And then all of a sudden the whole thing was just eating his leg, right?
Goodness.
Yeah,
It's almost it just you relate it to life or business. It just takes that one little thing to mess up a great thing, and it's just the way how you fix the one little thing, and absolutely,
that's good.
absolutely.
If you had to look back, like, hey, you've accomplished a bunch of things in your life, get great family. I want to talk about certainly the Latin K, the Knudsen, the family line and lineage.
Okay.
Um, what do you think the superpower for Scott Knudsen that separates you from others, kind of catapults you to that 1%, Scott?
Man, I think it's my faith. Absolutely. I think everybody has faith. It's definitely my faith. I'm surrounded by great people with my family and friends. Um, I put myself in that position. I surround myself with just great people, and if I'm having maybe not the best day, but a great day, a good day, and I'm by myself, I'll throw on a podcast like yours or just something to keep my mind positive and a positive mind, but an even bigger heart. You'll get there.
I love it. I love it. Talk
Thank
to me
you.
about like you've probably seen some people in your life that have come across your way like maybe not a fit for what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
do you manage those people or manage them out? Like what's a go-to for you and your organization, your industry to go, hey, this isn't a values match, maybe.
Right. I love that. Man, you can look in their eye, you can look in their body movement, you can see what time they get to work. If they're early, if they're asking a bunch of questions, if they talk with passion, they're into it. And we've had interns that made Division I teams and all kinds of great things. And then we've had some that just didn't connect. And when that happens, we just have that talk. Like, let's see what else is out there. And if they want to be in the industry, they can be a photographer or make boots, make saddles. If they want to do it, if they want to stay in the industry, and some do, some don't. But we find something else. It's too dangerous not to want to be in it.
Well, I love that. I love that, and I believe this. I'm a believer that everyone's good. Everyone's got good in them.
Absolutely.
Everyone's got God-gifted talents. I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of people inside my organizations that didn't have a talent for what they were doing in my organization. They may have wanted that. Maybe they thought at one point they wanted this. And we see that in pro sports too.
Right.
And we realize like, hey, maybe this isn't your gift. Maybe there's something else. And a lot of that does show up in attitude, right? If you're going to something every day that people don't enjoy doing, like why are you still doing it? Like you should be
Absolutely.
definitely finding your place where you're going to be a significant contributor. And if you don't like it, I doubt that you're going to be a great contributor.
Yeah, 100%, right? 100%. If you don't like something, leave. Life's too short. I can promise you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you're not
Living
going to
proof.
enjoy it, yes. And you're not going to learn everything and you're not going to be the best at it. And, everybody wants to be the best. If you're
Yeah.
not, once you get in your passion job or your passion business, you're going to want to be.
Well,
And,
what a shot of energy, right? When people are telling you, "Oh, hey, Scott, you're so good at this, man." You every time
yeah,
someone tells you that, you like, "Yeah, hey, the chest comes out a little bit
yeah,
more, the shoulders come back." You're thinking like,
right.
"Man, I'm really contributing in my environment and I'm making a difference for people." And all these things are, and that snowballs one way or the other, right? We can snowball that up the mountain and continue to build, or it
Mhm.
can snowball down and avalanche this thing into a mess. right? If it's all negative,
100%.
like, Trent, you're sucking, you're terrible at the job. Like, I don't want to go to the review because I'm gonna just hear how bad I am, right?
Yeah, yeah. And nobody wants to go through that. It's
No.
momentum. It's momentum. And there's positive and negative, and it just takes, like we were talking about, one little thing can go from positive to negative. So you just got to keep building off that positive momentum.
If you had to tell, somebody right now who's facing a
Mhm.
challenge, they are down and out, you know, it's not over, but
Yeah.
they're struggling. And what would you say is one value, belief, or action that you took when you were down, that turned things for you, that you would tell them, hey, this is probably pretty critical for you right now?
Just get positive. Get positive. And if you mentally can't get positive because you feel there's so much on you, where
Yeah.
it just burdening you, find a way to get positive. Believe in your heart and your mind. Jump in the Bible. Study. Surround yourself with good people. If you don't have anyone in your environment around you that's positive, find a podcast that's going to lift you and listen to them. Get your mind right, because if your mind's
Mm.
right and your heart's there, you can get through anything. You absolutely can.
I love that. I love that, man. Feed the heart, bro. I
Yeah,
love that. I mean, and
absolutely.
I think that words matter, right? And if we're
100%.
telling
Yeah.
ourselves, and I would never use bad words with my good friend Scott Knudsen. I'd never be like, I think you're horse crap. I think
Yeah.
I'm not telling you, but yet I think a lot of people are using those words to themselves, right?
Mhm.
I'm not
Absolutely.
gonna get better, man. I'm never gonna make it. And the never always stuff that we're running in our own mind. I mean, words matter, and we choose them very carefully with the people we're around and with. Why wouldn't we do that with ourselves?
Trent, that's so right, man. If they get a mirror and they look in that mirror and look in their eyes, and if they can say those positive words in their eyes, eventually they're going to start believing it.
Yeah.
Once they start believing it, then the actions are going to happen. And then once again, positive momentum that'll take them the right way. But you
Yeah,
have to say it and believe it when you say it. And you got to look yourself in the eye. And that's
I,
a test.
I think you're right, man. I think we underestimate the power of intentness
Mhm.
and momentum. I mean, I think
Absolutely.
those two things are underestimated and we've seen it, right? We've
Yeah.
seen it in our lives where
Yeah.
you get a stop and it's like, oh man, I thought we were gonna going in the right direction. We got a setback, and yeah, we should probably get out there tomorrow, but subconsciously we're sabotaging. We're like, yeah, but you know what? I'll go work on the back 40 on this other thing that I know I can get done, instead of taking on something hard because it's not going great.
Right.
And so all of a sudden the momentum starts taking a break, it starts stopping on you, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I don't know if I'll go back to it.
Right.
Wait a minute.
100%. And once you start letting that negativity go in your mind, like you just said, it's over.
Yeah.
The project stopped for a reason. Once you
Yeah.
figure out why it stopped, you're just going to make it stronger. Once you fix it, you just got to
Yeah.
figure it out. And there's a reason it stopped. It's not a negative when something stops or breaks or something like that. That's not a negative. It's just an opportunity to get better or fix it
Yeah.
and get stronger. You know, um, it's just not.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I've seen that where the leader of a team,
Mhm.
kind of says, "Well, we're not as good as they are. We don't have what they have." And da, da, da. And like, this is the all-star, the star player, and the words matter. Like, the rest of the team goes, "Wait a minute, I thought we were going to compete, and you're telling us that we're not as good as everybody else, so we're just going to have to be content with our 500 record."
Oh,
And like, man, I don't know if you
that's
can say that publicly,
that's terrible.
right?
That's terrible. I'll give you an example. I was riding this horse, and he was a small horse. He was a quarter horse, but he's small. Big heart, small horse. Called Jake. I called him Big Jake just
Big
because.
heart, small horse. I like that.
Yeah, and we were at a big competition. And it was at the Coliseum, actually in Fort Worth, and in Cowtown, and it was an all-day deal. We made it to the final, so it was rolling into the night in the early hours, and all the guys were riding these bigger kind of horses, and they were holding up pretty well. And my horse was just sweated down. I was sweated down. We were trying to, compete at a high level, and he was all heart, and I remember him this day because he was all heart. He gave everything he could, and he went out, and everybody else, I could just see in their eyes. You saw it being an athlete. You could see when they're kind of smirking at you, then you get up there and you hit the home run, or
Yeah.
But we were out there and we won, and they all looked like, what in the world happened? But that horse didn't know he was small. He
That's
didn't
right.
know he couldn't do it or wasn't supposed to do it. It was all heart and mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can identify with that, man. Like little horse, big heart. I like that.
I love it.
I might get that tattoo, bro.
You have to, man, just right there. Get to sleep. Yeah.
Let me ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Couple questions from audience here.
Okay.
I mean, you've had a lot of success. You won a lot. What do you think is the best battle that you've ever conquered in your lifetime?
First, being a good Christian is still I'm still wanting to do that every day.
That's a big battle, by the way.
Every day, I like I said, I don't drink or anything like that. But I don't cuss. But there's still so much more. Who am I going to help today? What are we going to volunteer? Where can we do? So that's number one. Number two, I want to be the best, dad and husband I can be, and family guy, and help my friends and help their friends. If I do that, it's pretty good. I'm always trying to do better. That's once you get that core, everything else will take care of itself.
Love that. How do you, like, when you come up and you talk about, I mean, you're coaching some kids, they want to, go on and do some things. When you were young, like, how did you get developed by coaches and leaders you were around? Like, learn like the Scott Knudsen way that today, but there were people that modeled that for you, that showed you that. How about people in your life that kind of led you down that lane?
Yeah, man, my family, awesome, and what I remember, because it was before Lightning, so some's gone, but what I remember, it was great. They really set the core for me. I have great family, my friends, church, and along the way, I learned something from everybody, and just something small or something big or something negative, like, man, I don't want to ever treat somebody like that, or that was a bad decision. So I'm trying to learn. And I've had people in the entertainment industry to horse people, and I'm always learning. It never stops. I think once you stop learning, it's over. Every day, even today, man, I love learning. I think that's the strongest thing we can do to take care of our mind.
That's good. Let's talk about, let's stay on this learning.
All right.
What advice can you give on learning from our mistakes as well as our successes?
Oh my goodness, mistakes I can talk on all day because I make them every day.
No, we all,
I'd be the smartest guy.
And there's actually a comfort now in all these mistakes.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. When I speak and I talk about my mistakes, I think I make everybody in the room feel better. Well, but I learned from them.
One of the statistics I love is, like, now as an entrepreneur, CEO, people running organizations like you do, sitting on boards, you were probably tagged to 50,000 plus decisions a day.
Wow, good number. Good number.
So what's the odds that we're making 50,000 of the right decisions and not erring in some step, right? Like, that's not likely.
No way. There's no way.
No way.
You just learn from your bad calls and grow from your good ones. That's all you can do. But there's so many decisions. Like we were talking about way back. The small little thing you do wrong affects everything. So every decision is important. You try and do them with respect. But when out of 50,000, if we miss a few, we got to be able to adjust.
Yeah. So true. You see a lot of, you've had a lot of experience around other people. When you think, you've had a lot of time to self-reflect, and most people are moving at the light, speed of light, right? They're not taking time to smell the roses. That's for sure.
Right.
Not so present. When you see that someone's looking in the mirror, what's something that you think most people miss about themselves? Like, it's right there in front of them, but they're not seeing it.
Their self-worth. Because everybody has something to give to somebody else. They all have something that they can help other people with. They all have a special talent, and it's just a matter of them finding it and using it. And with me, whenever I was hurt or, whatever, and I was sitting here and couldn't do something, maybe ride or go to the different meetings, I found something else to do, and after the Lightning, my self-worth came from learning to read and write again. But it's once again, it goes back to education, and you have to believe it. You have to believe you're going to be fine.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the show. Cowboy Entrepreneur. Well, no, before we do that, before we do the show, let's
Okay.
talk about the Latin K. It's very important. It's a family crest, right?
Well, yeah, the K is a Knudsen brand, and after we were hit by lightning, we made a brand, and it's the Lightning K. So you'll see the lightning bolt in our name, and we just as opposed to running away from what happened to us, we ran into it. We wanted to learn from it, and it's everywhere. It's on our shirts, our tractors, our trucks. It's everywhere, and I walk over that spot all the time, and we just embraced it. And not to so much tell other people about it until lately, but just to not run from something, no
Yeah.
matter how bad it is, and even though that happened, we were so blessed. We all three lived through it. My daughter wasn't hurt. My wife got better. I'm better. And it taught us a lot. So
Does your daughter, I mean, 1 year old, does your daughter have any memory of the event?
she really doesn't, just from the stories,
Yeah.
because she was so young, and
So little.
it was amazing when that happened, Trent, because we didn't know it happened. We knew there was a loud bang and a bright light. The horses were in commotion and stuff was happening in the house. Our house is about 400 yards from where we were. The TVs blew out, and
How far is your wife away from you?
right next to me on my right side. It went right in front of her to me. That's why our eyes and ears were kind of tingly, but we didn't know. And it was like the old days with the TV when you pulled the plug out and put it back in, all the fuzzies. That was our brain. And that was our brain. And we were just hit by lightning, and we were like laughing about it because we didn't. It's a joke almost. You never really expect that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it started burning and it started hurting. And our mind isn't. We had a desktop computer back in the days when you couldn't dial your phone, off that. And I was trying to dial the hospital off of that. Our minds were so messed up, and we still didn't really believe it 100%. And my wife, bless her heart, I said, we're going to be fine. And she drove to town, which is 30 miles, and got a birthday cake, a sweet little birthday cake, and came back. And my eyes and my face were black. I just kind of rolled back. And that's when we went back to town, because it didn't dawn on any of us. And then that's when seriousness started. But, it taught us a lot, and we learned from it.
Do you know what is the statistic of people surviving a lightning strike?
Not very good. Not
I
very
was gonna
good.
say,
That's all I know.
not be
I don't know
high.
the number, but it's not very good.
Yeah. All right.
And I don't think I would have got over it if I didn't believe in God and really believe in myself and have the support of the family and my friends. The ones that knew. We didn't tell a lot. We weren't over that. Like, look what happened to us. But people that did know, we just believe we'd get over it. So that became our family brand.
Love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the cowboy entrepreneur.
Awesome.
You start this thing out talking about entrepreneurship in a show, and very quickly that becomes. Or did you start as a radio show, or did it start as a podcast?
We did both. We started speaking around to some universities and some different things, and it kind of took off. And I called a friend of mine that owned a magazine, and I said, man, I think there's something we need to do here. And it wasn't for me. It was the kids were coming up, and I asked them, I said, give me 2 stories. What do you want to ask me? Have you been hurt? Have you ever failed? And I'm like, oh my goodness. As a cowboy, you never talk about your injuries. You just go on. And I answered them, and they leaned in. I'm like, dang, there's something there. And we just started from there, and we got our team put together, and we started the radio show, the podcast, and it just kind of took off.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And now you're gonna kind of go worldwide on this thing soon, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. I think we have 18 countries now that follow us, and it's growing pretty quick. It's a lot of fun. It's so much fun just to meet other people.
Let's talk a little bit about that environment, right? Let's talk a little bit about again, this is an environment of rodeo, farming, horses, cattle. All these categories are international. I mean, it's not like it's restricted to the United States, right?
Yeah,
Everyone's been doing these things for a long time. And again, I just don't think people kind of got their blinders on. They don't know, like, hey, this is going on worldwide, and a lot of things are happening. Talk about what that's meant to you, the family. Has that always been a center of international, or how's that served you?
You know, when we were breeding horses and training a few horses, we had people from Panama and Puerto Rico, Mexico, Canada calling us. It was somewhat close. And with the show, it's really expanded a lot to Australia and Europe and all over the place. It wasn't, but I'll tell you, it's a kind of cool story. It's a business story. We had a bad drought here, and I believe it was 09. I've kind of put the dates out because I don't concentrate on that. And a bad drought. And there was no hay. Diesel was up. It was just a bad situation for anybody in our industry. And we couldn't get hay. We were shipping it from California to Texas, and then they ran out. It was a bad deal. And we had a bunch of horses. And I said, man, we got to do something. It was just too much inventory, if you want to say it like a business term. So, and I had great horses. I didn't want to cull any, but I said, okay, we're going to get rid of some horses. We're going to move some things around. Where can we go with them? Where are we going to sell them? Half the United States was in this drought. There was no place to sell them. So I said, we got to figure out a place to go with them. So we figured out overseas, Panama, and we started creating some relationships. So we started shipping horses over there, and that became the foundation for some of those programs. But we found a way out of that situation.
Nice.
And that's
a big deal, right? Like, hey, winners find a way, you know?
You have to, man. You know, if you don't, there is no way.
That's right. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. Well, let's talk a little bit about, before we go, I want to hear about maybe a go-to quote, something you do, like, hey, when things are kind of up against it and you feel it, like there are things you go to, whether you go to the Bible or anything like this. But for everyone else, hey, follow the show on YouTube Live and many more videos on Leadershipity YouTube channel. You can find us at Leadershipity on Instagram and Twitter, at Trent M. Clark. Any of our socials are on either one of those two, leadershipity.com. Make sure to look for our upcoming ebook, The Pyramid of Leadershipity. And you can email me, Trent at leadershipity.com, if you'd like to take the assessment on your leadership pyramid. So love to have that. Tell them again where they can find you, Scott.
Cowboy Entrepreneur on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on LinkedIn at Scott Knudsen. But Cowboy Entrepreneur.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about this verse. What's your go-to when things are down?
Man, I like Proverbs 11:2. And it's pride leads to disgrace, and humility leads to wisdom. And I just love that. You know, there's no sense in being arrogant, carrying yourself a different way, you know, because life will humble you. Your day will humble you. It happens. And just be humble and help people along the way. It's the best way to go. I've known a lot of successful people, and they're humble. They want to help people. You'd never know what they had or what they did unless you ask. And I love that, you know, kind of like Solomon in the Bible. You know, he asked God for anything, and he didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for wealth or fame. It was knowledge and wisdom, you know, and I think that comes with humility.
Yeah, I was talking to in a show actually that's coming up recently. I think last week I was talking with a guy, Finian Kelly, he's the CEO of Intentionality Inc. And you know, I was telling him, like, you know, if I look at all my challenges that I've ever had, that, you know, really most of my challenges are self-inflicted, by the way. Right? And I would say, listen, man, I could probably attribute 99% to pride.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's gotten me in so much trouble along the way, and maybe not even consciously, right? It's not something I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm feeling prideful today, right? Like, I think it's where you get to that edge, man, where confidence can leap into arrogance so easily.
So easy.
And
I love that. I love that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely, you know, when you go jump on a horse, they don't care what kind of day you had. They don't know what's in your bank account. They don't know if you're getting syndicated. They don't know. They don't care. They just, you know, treat them with respect.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's challenged me being around horses, right? It's a huge animal. I'm not a big dude. I'm always like, man, I respect the power. Yeah. We name our car engines based on horsepower, right? Like,
absolutely.
Like no joke, man. And when I think about that, I always have a lot of respect for seeing like the old movies like Citizen Kane and things like that, where you see a young Liz Taylor doing stuff at 14 years old. She must have grown up on a ranch, because like I don't think they could have taught her that in a year, like, how to ride these horses at that speed, right? Yeah. It was impressive. But I think that's when, real talent was talent. But
Absolutely.
now it's getting a little more gray. So, okay, so my quote, thinking about you, like, see, I'm gonna quote the great Willie Nelson, "Mama,
Ooh.
don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys." Like, this is like I'm listening to 60 bones broken, 9
Yeah,
concussions, a broken neck, man, a face shattered. Like,
yeah,
this is a rough go, man. This isn't
yeah,
for
it
the faint
has.
at heart, brother.
Yeah, it has. It has. I love that, man. You
Well, listen,
surprised
man,
me with that one.
I hope you've enjoyed it. Scott, loved having you on today. For everybody else, if you enjoyed today's episode, please continue listening and rate Winners Find a Way. 5 stars. Come back. We work hard to find value delivering stories from the 1% leaders. And of course, Scott Knudsen did not disappoint at all, as usual. So thank you, Scott, for being here, man. Loved having you.
Trent, thank you so much, man. I enjoyed it so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. For everybody, we'll see you next time. Winners Find a Way show.
Bye.